Welcome to another episode of Comedy Wham Presents with me, your host Valerie, and sometime co-host Ms. Purrington, and our newest co-host Mookie. ComedyWham.com is your place to go for features about all Austin comedy. You can keep up with us on Twitter and Instagram at Comedy Wham or on our Comedy Wham Facebook page. In addition to podcasts, Comedy Wham brings you articles, album reviews, our advice column Rochelle Takes on Comedy, and a festivals page, and our FPIA page, which now recaps the 2022 competition and the winner. And of course, we're best known for our events page for live shows in Austin, Houston, and DFW. If you're a comic in those cities and want your show featured on the calendar, go to the events page and click Submit a Show to complete the short survey. Tag us on your Instagram stories and we'll share your show promo. Looking for ways to support all these resources we provide? Well, you can donate to Comedy Wham on PayPal, Venmo, or even Patreon. Search for Comedy Wham on Patreon and check out our subscriber perks. Now let's get back to our podcast. Launched in 2016, the Podcast Project brings you funny people and their stories. As a fan, I like to delve into a comic's background and motivations and will usually take a detour along the way. Consider the interview a way for you to get to know the folks that make the Austin comedy scene one of the best in the country. If you like this podcast, please rate and review us. Today, we are talking to somebody who did our 2020 Isolation Comedy online shows, where she quickly stood out with her traditional stand-up as well as her sketches. Her Moontower bio describes her comedy as encompassing the three bis: sexual, polar, and chi. You do the math on that one and figure it out. Say it in your head. And has been described as too fast, too furious. She has done shows all around town. She was a finalist in the 2022 FPIA contest at Cap City, and I got to see her semifinals set, and it was stunningly good. And I just said the intonation on that as if I would think that wouldn't be, but that's not what I meant. It was so good. And now Comedy Wham presents our guest, Holly Hart.
Thank you.
Do you want to tell the audience listening that this is your first ever podcast?
This is my first podcast. I've never been on a podcast before. I'm like really nervous. I'm like worried I'm going to burp. I don't know why. Like that's just like a fear I have.
I can't believe that this is your first. This is great. This is a great honor for me.
I appreciate that I'm losing my podcast to virginity to someone so kind. And
yes, that will be very nice. Holly, thank you so much for making the trek out here. I will just get to my opening question. That way we can launch into our conversation. Okay, yeah. You said that you do listen to this podcast, so you'll have to tell me if you've prepared for this question. One word to describe your past.
Mercurial.
That sounded very prepared.
It was prepared. But I mean, I had runner-ups too. I considered disjointed. I considered lucky. But mercurial, I like the sound of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's an SAT word, I'm pretty sure.
I'll have to ask my teenager. Yeah, he's taken the SAT twice, actually, in the last month, and he's taking the PSAT.
Very topical
this week
for this household.
Yes, it's very topical. Yes, I'll have to ask him if he knows the word. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Corpus Christi, Texas.
Ah, okay.
I mean, I say Corpus, but I grew up in like a small farm town near Corpus, Robstown, Texas. Yeah.
And did comedy have a role in your life? If you think about growing up and comedy, what comes to mind?
I was like always watching Comedy Central growing up. My dad is a big stand-up fan. He's also like a really funny person. And I grew up really so far out in the boonies that even though I'm like of the generation where most people grew up with internet access at home, I didn't.
Oh, wow.
And because of that, like I was really glued to like Comedy Central, and like Adult Swim, and I had to get it through cable, like all my comedy. I wasn't like watching like Annoying Orange or whatever was trendy with kids my age. Yeah, so was always watching like the little half-hour specials. Yeah, comedy was always really present growing up in my household.
Yeah. Did you have any inkling that that might be something you'd want to do down the road?
I don't think so. I mean, maybe I was like a theater kid in high school.
Okay.
I really loved being on stage and performing, and I really was always drawn to more of the comedic roles. But then I think when I went to college, I just really like pushed any inkling of like doing any type of performing like down in a way, and I was like, no, I'm gonna be rich. I'm gonna do good in school, and I'm gonna get a lucrative career, which is so not who I am now, and like not. Which is kind of why I chose Mercurial, because I just feel like there's just been a lot of distinct phases in my life that feel kind of disjointed. But yeah, I didn't really start thinking about performing comedy until kind of like late in college. And even then, it was because my best friend was dating a local Austin comic. And she would like send me clips of him, and she was getting really into the scene. She was like going to all these local shows, and when I would come and visit her in Austin, like we would go and see. We would always go to a very early iteration of Buzzkill at the Buzz Mill. So this is like in 2016. And I remember one time we went and I saw LaShonda was on it, and some other Austin people. I'm like brain fogging right now, but some very like people that I didn't know what a big deal they were, but like now I'm like, wow, I'm so fortunate that I got to like see those people, even though I was like 3 years out of even living in Austin.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So what were you studying or pursuing when you finished high school that was going to be the lucrative, rich making career?
I went to Wellesley College, and I was like, that's it, that's my ticket. I was like, I'm going to this like, New England institution, so I'm gonna major in economics, I'm gonna work at Goldman Sachs, I'm gonna be rich, I don't know. Which it just makes me laugh now because now I like work in nonprofits, and I've only ever worked in like nonprofits or schools. And it's like, what was I thinking? I don't know.
I actually want to fast forward to something that has an impression that you made on me during those online shows that I want to share with you. And I don't think I've ever shared this with you. The first time that Colton booked you on that online show, I had not heard of you up to that point. And, anytime Colton was booking somebody, it's like, okay, well, they're vetted, they're good. I was so struck by how everybody in that room loved you. And I'm like, how did I not know about this person? Like, everybody loves her and is loving on her. And then your set was really good. And then the other appearances that you did with us, you went more of a sketch route. And I'll never forget you walking through the house in your ball gown and just really committing to the goofiness of an online show. And I just loved how you like committed and you radiated this light.
Thank you.
How far into comedy were you when the pandemic hit, and what was it that got you into comedy?
So my first open mic was August 2019. So It wasn't a lot of time.
No.
I think my first open mic was at Love Go. And for the first few weeks I was doing comedy, I was only going to Love Go because it was like on the weekend.
Worst.
And I was a preschool teacher at the time, and I really couldn't justify like going out on weeknights. So it was just Love Go over and over and over again for like weeks. And then I eventually started going to like Kick Butt was another favorite, trying to get on the Valve mic and failing a lot of the time. I didn't even start getting really, I'm trying to think of like my first show that I was booked on, just a tiny little guest spot, was High Tide at Kinda Tropical, which was just like a bar show. I did like 6 months there. And that was in December of 2019.
Okay.
And so, first time ever booked, December 2019, pandemic starts March 2020. So I got like a good 6 months in, I guess, of like doing comedy.
Yeah.
But actually like getting to do shows was not very long before it started.
Yeah.
But I think I was lucky that a lot of the people I met kind of like championed me early on. Like Colton is a great example. Like he saw me do a Cap City mic and like came up to me afterwards and was really interested in like the kind of weirder sexual stuff I was doing back then. And it always just, really helped me get opportunities. I was lucky that I got to do like a couple of really classic Austin shows like right before the pandemic hit. Like I got to do like Stone versus Drunk versus Sober before everything shut down, and that had been like a show I'd been like obsessed with, and I had gotten to do Buzzkill at the Buzzmill for the first time, which was like really special to me because like I said, I had seen it so long ago, and that had been like my first very early introduction to Austin comedy. But yeah, the timing was really crazy for me to have done it for so little, but had like pretty good results in the scene, but then the pandemic and everything that's happened since.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. How did you react to the pandemic at this early in your comedy career?
I mean, I was so annoyed. I was like, for me, like I was a preschool teacher at the time, so like my day job had very dramatic implications when the pandemic started, and then with comedy, I think the thing I became the most upset about was like FPIA not happening. I'd really been looking forward to that, and I was like, this is gonna be where I can prove myself, like so many others before me have been able to do with their first year at FPIA. And obviously that didn't happen. I was lucky that I got to do some of the only Zoom shows I ever did were Comedy Wham Zoom shows. And the first time I did it really straightforward. And then the subsequent ones, I was like, I got to make this like more fun for me.
Yeah.
So I did like, one of them I did like fully in character the whole time. And I had like this weird story about how I was committing tax fraud, so I had to perform under a different name. Something so like weird. And then the last time I did it, which you were talking about, I did like an MTV Cribs.
Yeah.
But me and my roommates just like dirtied our house and like put trash all over the place. And I had them like film me walking through and like this insane like red fluffy lingerie ball gown thing. I don't know. It was so weird. But it was kind of freeing because I think a lot of my stand-up, because like I said, I hadn't been doing it very long, and my stand-up, I had, always been trying to be very like together, and people often give me the note that they can see me like do 2 sets a night, and those sets are going to be exactly the same. Like, I mean, I don't, obviously I vary my sets like night to night, but if I set out with a plan, I'm pretty certain that's exactly what I'm going to say. And I felt like doing at least back then, but like now I look back and that's like one of the first times I was able to kind of like let loose and be more silly and yeah.
Oh, well, I'm glad that, double whammy here. First time podcasting, and that we had a good impact on you. Yeah. I was recording with somebody earlier, and I said, you only did one. It's like, yep, I only did one.
Like, correct.
It was not good. And, people had such different approaches and relationships to doing the online shows. And I was curious because being so early in your comedy career, and then, it's kind of like a sink or swim. And if you wanted to keep doing it, then this was just a different avenue. And you figured out the formula. You wanted to have fun. And whatever it took to do that, it helped. Okay, so we somehow survive the pandemic and get through it, and now we've got such a different comedy scene. And you observed the comedy scene in 2016 very briefly, and then you enter it in late 19, early 20, and then things start opening up. Who do you think you are at that time as far as a comic?
I think I was like a little more chaotic, not as polished for sure. I also like, it was so confusing because it's like I went from, this is a very established scene. I've gotten a good taste of it. I know whose asses need to be kissed. I know who's important. I know who I need to like have reverence towards. And now all the rules are different, and there's a million other people, and I'm like in a weird position where I'm kind of in this like cusp of like, I knew the old scene, but I wasn't really a part of it. I was just like I was like a toddler in it, And then now the new scene's coming back, and I don't know any of these people. I barely know the old people, so just crazy timing.
Yeah. Did your approach to comedy change?
I think it was slow going. I think I did try to kind of make the same sets work, make the same jokes, and then really just, I think when I came back, I struggled with writing a lot more than when I first started. Like when I first started, it was like, I'm writing a new 3 minutes every single week. I'm never going to repeat the same jokes at Love Goat. And then when I came back, I was couldn't really justify like going when like risk was still high with COVID. And like I said, I was a preschool teacher. Like I can't afford to get sick and put kids at risk. And so I was really only doing shows. I wasn't doing mics. And so I feel like that was like a pretty stagnant time for my comedy where I wasn't really doing a lot of growth. I was like getting, back into the rhythm, but I couldn't really justify mics. I could only justify shows and like outdoor shows, which are a whole different vibe. Yeah.
Have you gotten back to doing mics?
Not as much as I want to. That's like a big goal for me moving forward. And I feel hypocritical because or not hypocritical, but just I go back on every couple months. I'm like, okay, this is it. I'm going to be hitting the mic some more. And I haven't been, but I think that's just because I've been struggling with writing new stuff. And now that I'm finally actually writing new stuff, I'm like, okay, now I can go back to mics and
But you co-host one, right?
No.
Oh, why did I think you did? Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
All right. So all of this self-reflection leads up to, and you can tell me that you don't want to talk about this, but I think you shared a really, really powerful message. It was on Facebook, so you might have limited the audience, but you shared something about like kind of coming to peace with who you were after past trauma.
Yeah.
And feeling like you're in the best place, mentally than you've been in a really long time. And that's, I always try to encourage that when you feel good about yourself, that's when you seem to have like this spark. And you gain real movement and traction when you're doing comedy, when you've reached that point. So whether you want to share anything about like what that post shared, I'm interested in the, how has reaching that point in your personal journey affected your comedy?
Yeah. Well, I will say, I didn't say this a while ago when I was talking about when I first started comedy, but like I said, my first mics were like in August, but like I was like literally in a mental hospital in July. So like the timing of it was like, so like, I was committed. And then when I got out, I was like, I need something to focus my attention on. And so that was also a big reason I was like only going to Love Goat, is because I was in outpatient therapy 4 nights a week. So it kind of tied my hands. But yeah, and so like I think my mental health journey is like completely linked to how I think about comedy, because I really did start doing comedy when I had just come out of really the lowest period of my life that had like culminated in being hospitalized. And then kind of I feel like my growth with comedy has paralleled growth with myself and feeling more comfortable with myself. And I think that shows in my comedy, because I think when I started, I would not speak very kindly about myself. And like the way I always was just punching down on myself. Like, I mean, my comedy is really personal. It always has been. I only talk about myself. I don't really have any observations. It's just telling stories about myself. But I think when I first started, those stories were like mean. Like I was like mean to myself. And now I don't feel like that. And like I don't do like fat jokes anymore. I don't really like talk about deserving like mistreatment by men, or any of those themes are like not in my work anymore. And I think that's just directly related to being in a better place mentally.
Yeah, that's really powerful.
Yeah.
I hope somebody listening, absorbs that.
Yeah.
Because it is really important. There's, it's a trope that the
It
comics
feels so
hate
cliche.
themselves and until they stop.
Yeah.
It's a different path. And once they do, it's much better. And I would like to applaud you, because I saw your semifinals FPIA set, and I was blown away.
Thank you.
I thought, wow. And I was kind of surprised you didn't advance, but, it's always
I appreciate
like
that. Yeah, it always is. It's almost more fun to be the person where they're saying, like, oh, you deserved it, than being a person where they're like, that guy? Like, what the hell, Yeah, it only fuels me, to be able to be like, oh, yeah, well, next year. Yeah.
Well, and technically, this was your first year.
Yeah,
you
for sure.
made it to the semis, and that was just such a rock solid set.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was very, very impressed by,
Yeah.
After having seen you as the beauty queen walking through your house and stand up from your I think you were on a couch. I visualize these things instead of moving on and capturing different memories, just to see your confidence on stage, and it was awesome.
Thank you.
How did you feel about going through the contest for the first year after the near miss of 2020?
Yeah, I really had no idea what to expect. I mean, it's also like a new facility. I had been fortunate that I got to perform at Cap City one time before the competition, when I hosted for Avery Moore, for her many time rescheduled
Yes.
headlining set there. So I was like familiar at least like with where the light is going to be coming from and everything. But I went first on my prelim and semifinal round, which is always kind of like nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
But I felt really good about it, and I really had just told myself, like, it's just like, I just want to advance one time. Like, just to get to the semifinals would feel so good and like feel like validating and kind of give like that stamp of like outside approval, because I like really suffer from imposter syndrome. And I'm always like, because there's always those whispers. People are like, oh, like, women get booked faster, and it doesn't matter if they're good, because you have to have a girl on your show now or whatever.
Oh my God.
And I don't believe that, but undeniably I am like kind of early in my comedy career. But anyways, it just felt good to like have like that kind of outside validation, and yeah, it just felt great both times. And yeah, I didn't advance in the second time, but I felt really good about that set, and I think it's paid dividends because like I've gone to host for people at Cap City since then, and I think that actually going first at the competition kind of like proved that I can like warm up a crowd even if it didn't, help me advance. And I think that's like what Chandy got to see those nights, and yeah.
Yeah, definitely pays off. And speaking of outside validation, you also got picked for Moontower.
That's
so
true,
that's kind of a big deal.
Yeah, for sure. That was so crazy, and just like something I really like always knew it's something I wanted to do and like thought about and dreamed about. I did not think I was going to get it that like first year. I mean, I guess it was the second time they had it back because they had kind of like the little version in like 2021.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just really wasn't expecting it, and it was so great and fun. And I'm really bad at networking, but I still tried. But yeah.
So what shows did you get to do at Moontower?
I got to do 3 shows. I hosted one of the like queer comedy showcases, and that was probably like one of the best sets of my life. Like probably in like the top 5 for sure.
Wow.
And it was such like a warm, fun crowd, and I think that's true for like a lot of like queer LGBT showcases, that like the audience is there to have fun, and I don't know, I just really love performing in queer spaces. Every time I get booked on a queer lineup, I am so looking forward to it. And then I was on the home base show at Velve, which had like featured a lot of like local people. And then I did the JFL audition show. Obviously did not get chosen, but it was still so fun to do.
Yeah, that's a rinse and repeat thing.
Yeah, for sure.
You're so early in your career, and I feel like, oh my gosh, I'm talking to like an ace here, because you've gotten Moontower.
Yeah.
You've advanced in FPIA. But I'm going to talk about something that I'm jealous that you did, and that is your Hart to Hart show. I never got to see it, but I'm like, oh man, that would be so cool to do a little talk show in a small black box theater. And when did that idea come up for you?
When things started kind of like gearing back up fully, I mean, it feels weird saying post-pandemic. Like, I'm getting a booster shot tomorrow, so it's not really post-pandemic.
Yeah.
But, like, when Fallout especially has always been a space I really have loved performing in and watching, whether it be stand-up or improv or sketch. I just like hanging out there.
Yeah.
I like a lot of the people that are in that space. I think they represent my favorite parts of comedy, and it's, like, very collaborative and just like friendly and supportive. I just like get great vibes from the space. Yeah. And they started like looking for show pitches. And I was like, I feel like I would love to do kind of like a weird like cult of personality like stand-up show, and I had all these grand ideas, and I was able to do them, but the reason the show was short-lived was because it was so, it took a lot of work, but the structure of Hart to Hart was that like, it was like 4 comics, at Fallout, and they would do their set, kind of shorter sets, like 6 or 8 minutes, and then I would interview them at this kind of like living room set we had built. Like I put curtains on the stage and like a little table and like 2 armchairs that we had to bring from my house.
Oh my god.
We put a rug on stage. We had like a full little set, and I would just ask them like really bizarre questions that I like had so much fun writing. And I would have like weird audience participation. Like this is an example, like when Hunter Duncan was on, I had like a box with a question in it put under a chair in the audience, And when the audience, I was like, everyone look under your chair, like someone's going to get the chance to ask a question. And they like pull out the card and it was like, first of all, Holly, you are so pretty. How do you do it? And my question for Hunter is, who's your favorite war criminal? And it's just like stupid stuff like that. Yeah. Like just the most bizarre getting to know you questions, which is like all those questions I already kind of had in my back pocket because I have like a lot of social anxiety, and when I would like meet new people, if I couldn't get the conversation going, I would just say weird questions. I'd be like, so who's your favorite Spice Girl? And just like weird stuff like that. Or like, what's the worst present you ever got as a child? Like just questions out of nowhere. Uh-huh. And some of it's because like I did like student life in college, and like icebreakers are like our bread and butter. And so just a combination of like all those icebreakers from college and having social anxiety and just like talking to people at parties in weird question form like came together for this show. And it was like a 6-month run. It was really fun. It was just a lot of work, and I didn't really know how to produce a show. I would say like I'm a good host of a show. I don't think I'm a great producer yet. That is something I want to get better at, but yeah.
So the 6-month run wrapped up, and how have you wanted to fill your time?
I mean, I do want to, after that, I have had 2 other kind of short-lived shows I produced. One of them was with Andrew Wagner called Family Dinner, and the concept was that we would make comics make a potluck dish to serve to us and the audience. We did that one time at Creek. I couldn't even go to it. Like, we had prepped for a long time, but then I had to miss because I was at a funeral.
Oh, my God.
And so Andrew last minute had to host it himself. And we had, like, made this, like, corny, like, family green screen, like, projection slideshow of these vacations, quote unquote, we had gone on together. And we had put in all this work, and then I didn't even get to go, and then Creek didn't want to pick it up, and that's fine. And then I did a show with Kat Swanner called Truth or Dare. Oh, yeah. And that one was really fun, and I still really think that show has legs. It was just kind of like a scheduling issue that it does not exist anymore. But that concept was like me and Kat go up top and do weird truth or dare kind of pranks with each other. Like the first one, I cracked an egg on my head just like in the middle of stage, and it was really nasty, honestly. And then comics come up, they do a little set, and then we play truth or dare with them, and we like waxed Dean Stanfield's nipple, and we made Lucas McCreary take off his sock with his mouth. But they couldn't, and so Dean like came back on stage and took Lucas's sock off with his mouth, and it was just a really wild time. Yeah. It was really fun, and yeah, so I've had some short-lived, all very high concept shows, and I think like at this point in my life, I just need to accept that I should just run like a nice local showcase like once a month.
No.
I need to set myself free from themes and high concept.
No. I mean, Raymond Cabrera, that's like his sole existence, it seems, is come up with some new concept every other day. Some stick, some don't, but you're still out there.
Yeah.
I mean, what would you have more fun with? The high concept and all of its ups and downs?
But I need something with staying power is the thing. I feel like I've had a lot of short-lived high concept, and I just want like a consistent thing. Because like you're saying, like I don't host anything. I don't host a mic or any shows. And that is also like a kind of a goal for the new year. As well as like going to more mics and like touring. I think I want to try to host a mic just as a way to force myself to do mics. But yeah.
That's the age-old formula. That's how, you know, the young kids, you know, when they're not getting booked on shows in their first 6 months, which is FYI, ludicrous concept.
Yeah.
They'll just create an open mic because that's how they'll get stage time.
Right.
And sometimes that works. Sometimes
Yeah.
it doesn't. But yeah, that's one way. You can bring that Love Goat mic back, although it's not Love Goat anymore.
I'm never over there. I don't even know.
Yeah.
I don't even think about that. I probably like put up my hand to block my vision when I drive by that strip of the track.
Yeah, I drove by recently and I'm like, is that still a Love Goat? And I saw it was a different name. And I'm like,
Yeah.
man, good memories there. Because I used to do mics.
Yeah.
And hands down, that was always my favorite one, just because it was just so painful.
Yeah.
To get
it's so
through.
chaotic.
Yeah, and
I'm
chaotic.
like, no, never an audience. Never. Guaranteed. There wasn't room for an audience with all the comics standing in that little space. Mm-hmm. If someone would have come in, they would have just like turned around and been like, there's too many people here and there's like a weirdo on the stage. Like, I don't want to be here.
Holly, have you done sketch and improv?
I just finished my first sketch show. I didn't write, but I performed in it at Fallout. It was directed and written by Doug Hines, who also does stand-up, and then John Darty, who is just improv and sketch person at Fallout, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, and that was really fun. It was called Into the Metaverse, and it was like weird technology sketches. It was really fun because it was like acting, which I really liked doing when I was younger. And like there's costumes, and it's all that like high concept stuff that I keep trying and failing to bring to stand-up. And then improv, I just finished taking a level 2 improv class. And I really like taking it, and I think I'll continue. I'm really trying to like get more comfortable deviating from the plan on stage with stand-up, and so improv seemed like a way to try to practice that skill. So far, not really having any transference, but I really like performing improv, and I think that is something I want to do more. I intend to keep taking classes, and like it's like an exciting time in the improv community in Austin because Cold Town just got a physical space that they're about to open. We've missed them, so
yeah. Well, you know what they say about people that do the 3 arts, the stand-up, the
they say
sketch,
they're
the
annoying.
Improv. No. They're like the vegan cousin that you don't want to talk to.
Yeah.
No, everything that they learn in one area benefits the other areas. Mm-hmm. And man, you're already a solid enough stand-up that you know, I'm not sure what you're going to learn to make better at stand-up, but you know, it's all gonna work together to just make you even more powerful. Can you sit in that compliment?
Yeah, okay. I appreciate it. I actually have been so like I'm not to toot my own horn. I feel like I am pretty good at improv. I mean, I'm only in level 2, but it's been way easier for me to accept compliments like about my improv than it has been for stand-up. And I think it's because like when someone's complimenting your improv, they're complimenting like your ability to like be a team player and like, you know, have good like instincts. I don't know. I think all of those disciplines are super different skill sets. I think improv is probably helping me like host for stand-up more because it's just like that's a time when you need to be a little more looser and kind of feel out an audience more. I don't really know if sketch has had any transferable skills yet, but it's just like injecting a lot more joy into how I think about comedy again, and I really just enjoy the collaborative nature, and it's been really fun.
Yeah. What's your favorite thing about performing in any of the 3 areas?
I think just like the adrenaline rush of like really connecting with an audience, and I was really fortunate. I got to host for Kyle Kinane this weekend, literally like yesterday.
Huge.
And that was like such a dream come true, and getting to feel like I was doing a good job there and like hosting and just like connecting with the crowd on random stuff and kind of like writing in little changes to my jokes to make them like more domain centric since Capsy's in the domain now. I don't know. I just think the most rewarding part is just laughter, like hearing laughs, hearing like, especially when there's like a moment where someone has like a distinct laugh and you keep hearing it and you're like, man, I'm really connecting with this like weirdo with this fucked up laugh.
That's such a very specific thing. I think that you're the first person that's ever.
Sometimes a
like
laugh
that.
really sticks out in an audience, and it just makes me so happy because it really like makes you remember that, like, you know, it's easy to just see the crowd and like talk about a crowd as just like this collective mass, but it's just like made up of individuals that are, you know, varying levels of enjoying you, and sometimes just a weird, snorty, cackly laugh is a good reminder of that.
Hooray to the snorty, cackling laugh. Well, we're more than halfway in, but we're going to do our little intermission with these open-ended question cards. So you pick one and read it and answer it, and then I'll take the other one.
Oh, this is going to end up being kind of negative. It said, I felt incredibly jealous when ... Ooh. I think I have been good about not being a hater in general. That's something like I try not to like give a lot of like time to in my life. Jealousy is a disease. Get well, bitch. But a time when I felt incredibly jealous. I feel like this is a really toxic question. There's no way for me to answer this without seeming like just so vindictive and
Do you
terrible.
Want to take the other one?
I am.
Okay.
Let's see. I felt lonely.
Oh no! I'm not sure that's an improvement.
Well, I mean, I will take this one. Okay. I guess I'll take.
I'm going to take the other one. Okay, I have no problem.
Good. We cheated a little bit with this game. Okay, I felt lonely. I think just like when I was first starting out in stand-up, like everyone's like pretty nice to you, but you know, there's not you have to build into that camaraderie. Like people are gonna, you know, say like, oh, good set, like I haven't seen you before, but there's not really, you have to like wait so long for like people to accept you and like be your actual like friend or even peer. And I think I felt really lonely that like I was just starting to get to the point where I felt like I could like say hello to people and like approach them when the pandemic started. And then he was in that weird kind of position where it's like, yeah, these people are like my friends, but I'm not going to hang out with them in a pandemic. And so I was just, and I guess this is also a jealousy one. I would just like see all like the local comics hanging out on like Instagram stories, and I'd be like, damn, I bet if I had gotten like 2 more months with these people, I'd be right there with them floating the river or whatever. But yeah, I think the timing was very, I mean, obviously the pandemic was isolating for everyone, but I hadn't like, my roots hadn't dug deep enough with the Austin comedy scene to like have that survive during the pandemic.
Yeah. Yeah, it was tough for everyone, for sure. Yeah. I feel incredibly jealous when somebody keeps posting their shows on Do 512 and they don't post on our events
dang.
page.
That's a call out.
So anybody listening, please post on
And I will say, your process much more streamlined than Do 512.
Oh my God, when I was hosting shows, oh my God, the emails, then I'd have to write, oh, this is a typo or a lineup change or whatever. I mean, who does email to accomplish anything?
I'm like, y'all make it harder on yourselves.
Now, we don't make any advertising money like Do 512, so, you know, everybody does that hustle because, you know, there's money there. Yeah. You know, there's no money at Comedy Wham. It's just our selfless giving.
Yeah. Thank you.
Damn it, I'm mad at myself because this question made me forget something I was going to ask you, and now I have to think about it. Oh, crap. Maybe it'll come to me. Because there was something that you were... okay, now I remember. All right, so now that the world has reopened up in Austin comedy, what are your kind of a newbie but kind of observed the scene. What are your observations about this weird melting pot of an Austin comedy scene that we have now?
Yeah, so like I said, I'm kind of like I would say I'm on the cusp of like old scene, new scene. And I think like as time is going on, like those divisions are becoming less and less. Like I think when everything first started to open up, there were definitely like venues and like shows that felt so distinctly old scene, new scene.
Yeah.
And I think that's like really started to go away. And I think FPIA kind of like offered an opportunity where like everyone was seeing people that maybe they've never gotten the chance to see. They've just seen this name around, but never really gotten to see them actually do stand up. I think there is kind of like a more hustle mindset with the newer scene, which is great, and more power to you, because I feel like everyone I know from the new scene is just like constantly out there. They're at the mics, they're putting in the work, and I do not have the energy. And maybe that's just like being a new, like when I first started, after I got through just doing like the weekly Love Goat mic, like I was going out like 3 to 4 times a week and doing multiple mics every night that I went out. And then now, like I said, like I'm like ashamed of how little I go to mics. But yeah, I think there's just like, I think the uniting factor between both scenes is like a real like do it, like a DIY mentality. And I think that's just like something that's always been in Austin, like the spirit of like house shows or like doing shows at places that it does not seem like there should be a show here. Like that just feels like a unifying concept.
Yeah, it's it feels like it's becoming a much more LA and New York type of scene where, you know, you've got the bodega comic shows now. And
I've been paid with a Reuben sandwich now, so that's
that's nice.
That's a check off the bucket list.
Yeah, and I know the barbershop show, that's been around,
you
know, before the pandemic, but, you know, now that just feels very on brand for post-pandemic. You know, let's pick a crazy venue to perform at. Are you still teaching preschool?
No, now I work in nonprofits now. I got out of teaching in like I think like late 2020. So I did like 6 months of teaching like in a masked preschool. And then I now work in like nonprofits. So
a little more time to go out,
for
maybe?
For sure. And now that I feel settled with like my new job and also just like mental health wise, I feel a lot better. I mean, I'm always gonna have excuses. I'm always gonna be like, well, I didn't really play with my dog that much today. She's probably gonna be really sad if I go to Mike's, which is like a made up thing. I always am blaming my dog to get out of stuff and like projecting human emotions on her. I'm like, my dog's gonna be so depressed if I don't go and spend the rest of the day at home instead of working in the office. I don't even remember what the question was. Oh, yeah, I'm not a preschool teacher anymore. I think going back to my past word, mercurial, I think, like, because I was, like, in grad school, and then I dropped out, and then I was a preschool teacher, and then I quit that, and, like, now I, like, work in nonprofits, and, yeah, it's just been kind of, like, a disconjointed like path to get to where I am right now, both like professionally and with comedy, but it feels good and like steady. Finally, it feels like it's been working up to like things feeling like good and constant. I feel like I'm in a good place now. Yeah.
And I know you just got the Cap City hosting this weekend. Are you on the radar for another one? Have they told you?
I mean, what's great is, like, because of FPIA, like, they all got to see a lot of new people, and a lot of my friends are doing like their first ever, especially kind of like the quote unquote new scene people. Like Mimi Myers is someone I really think is so funny, and she just had her first hosting gig there. Kat Swantner is going to be on her first showcase at Cap City soon, and I'm like so excited for them. But it's like, obviously, like as the list of people that they're booking grows, like they're gonna work through people.
That's true.
Slower, but I've been fortunate. Like I said, I got to host for Avery Moore. I hosted for Adam Carolla when he was in town.
Wow, that's cool.
I hosted like their local Dirty Show showcase that they did. That was just like local comics.
At Cap?
Yeah, they just started doing local showcases.
Well, I've known that, but I didn't realize they did a dirty show.
They did a dirty show up in the Red Room like a weekend or two ago. That was really fun, really rowdy.
Cool.
People were going crazy in that crowd. Like I had to like break up a couple like roping themselves to like try to wiggle back to the stage, like because they're like standing directly in this super small space that I have to, you know, shimmy on through to like bring up the next comic. And then I got to host for Kyle Kinane, so I'm getting good work there, which is awesome. And I just really, everyone that works there is so nice. Another place that just has really great energy. If you believe in like auras, I feel like Cap City has just an aura of like bright pink. I don't know.
Well, I love that they have now the permanent second stage, because at the old venue, you know, they couldn't do dual shows, and now they can.
Sure.
So that opens up way more opportunities, and I'm excited that they decided to go that route.
Me too.
With that, have you done any other festivals, or are you a festival applier type of person?
I have started applying to more festivals. For me, it's like a lot of the festivals that are at the level where they take open submissions and would take someone as like green as me with not a lot to say for myself.
You've got Moontower.
I know, but even still, when just like cold applying to stuff, like those types of festivals usually cannot provide any type of like lodging or even very much pay per show. And just like my own personal finances, I'm only just to toot my own horn, I am set on a path to get out of credit card debt by the end of this year. And then I feel like next year it's going to be time to get some more credit card debt so I can go to do some festivals. But I am trying to apply more. I'm always trying to do more. But I just feel I feel really good about like the local opportunities I get. But yeah, I'm really like a goal for the next year. I like definitely want to spend some time in New York. And like now that I have the flexibility to like work remote, like the dream is to like, you know, get like a cheap, disgusting Airbnb for like 3 weeks and like work and do mics there at night. And yeah.
That's a cool goal.
Yeah. That's like what I'm trying to save up for.
And you didn't say LA, so do you have a distinct preference for New York over LA? Or
I have just heard so many, I don't want to say horror stories, but like people talking about like, yeah, like I went out to LA and I did all these shows and the audiences are so like harder, and like you'll watch like a big name bomb right before you and you're like, if that guy bombed, how am I going to do good? And I'm like, that sounds so scary. I'm not going to spend that much money to be anxious about it. And I just also like I said, like I went to college on the East Coast, so I have some friends that live in New York, so it just seems like a more, if I have to choose between the two, it feels like the more logical choice. Yeah. I'm not trying to be anti-LA. Like, I've literally never been there. Like, I've spent no time there, but
I mean, if you can couch surf, then that's a good deal. And
I need more of my friends here to move out to LA, get couches, and then I'll go to LA.
That makes perfect sense. Yeah. That makes perfect sense. Is there anything we haven't talked about that you want people to know about you?
I'm really nice.
She is really nice.
I'm just shy. I'm like really, I've been struggling with being a shy person in comedy. Especially that's something that I think was like something I struggled with, kind of when things started opening back up. If like, cause I am, like I said, kind of shy and I struggle like with approaching people. I was always worried that I was like, giving off like a hoity-toity attitude or seeming standoffish, especially with like new scene people. I'm like, I don't want to be the reason they say that like the old scene is like, you know, cliquey or rude. I'm like, I just literally have so much anxiety. I cannot say hello to a stranger.
It's funny. Every once in a while, I will talk to somebody where fashion and how they present themselves is like a whole element to them, and that is one thing that I've been struck by you. I remember that first time you did the online show, everybody that hopped on was like, "Oh, you changed your hair, you changed the color," and you'd done that. And here you walk in, and you've got this like really gorgeous like yellow. I don't know, is it yellow or green?
It's like a greenish yellow. It's kind of like Gatorade. You can't really tell what that lemon lime flavor color wise is. Just like it's hard to describe.
Yeah, and I think probably on FPIA semis night that I saw you,
it was pink. Then.
Okay, yeah. So it's kind of funny. Like, how do you use the fashion and the hair to convey who you are? Especially since you're telling me I'm really shy, and it's like these are bold statements.
I've always like really loved fashion, but like. I think, like, because, like, I lost, like, 45 pounds in, like, the last, like, year and a half. And I think when I was in a slightly bigger body, I had struggled dressing because I, like, felt self-conscious and I didn't want to draw too much attention to myself. But now I, like, am finding, like, renewed joy in, like, fashion and, like, dressing. And I, like, really enjoy like getting dressed up for a show and thinking about, and I think some of it is like being like a woman with like tattoos and facial piercings and colored hair. It's like I know that it's like really easy for an audience to like make assumptions and like project things onto me because I do have like a very specific look. And so I think like with the clothing choices I like employ, I can either like kind of lean into that harder or I can kind of defy it. Like I've been really into dressing kind of like with like a little bit of a southern flair lately. And I think like I've been wearing like I think I wore a bolo tie on my FPIA semis night. And then when I hosted for Kyle one night, I wore like a little bandana kerchief around my neck. And I've been wearing this like kind of 80s inspired jean jacket a lot. But yeah, I just think it's just another, because I don't have the benefit of a lot of, male comedians where they can just wear a black t-shirt, jeans, walk on stage, and they're like perceived as just neutral. Like they're just like kind of like, in like if you were just to like picture a comedian, just like you had to invent what one looks like in your brain, you're just like this guy. And I think because, I'm a woman, I'm chubby, I have lots of tattoos and everything, like I might as well like have fun with it. And sometimes I'll like change up how I say a joke depending on the outfit I'm wearing. Like there's a part like sometimes I say I look like Joe Exotic in this one joke, and then sometimes I say something else, I don't remember. But yeah, I like it just like is another thing to toy with. And like also it can also just be another chance for like comedic misdirection. Because I have a joke right now where I talk about like my preference in dating is like dating rednecks, and like I don't really look like that would be what I am gonna say. And so it's just like another way to kind of like toy with the audience perception and expectations.
Yeah, that's very smart.
Yeah,
very smart. And your jokes are very smart.
Thank you.
One thing I found. Okay, let's see. Are you giving yourself a chance to do another high concept show in the next year or so, do you think?
I definitely feel like I'm really on the cusp of wanting to do a new show. Like, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but I do want to maybe pitch at the new Cold Town location if they're like going to be open to pitches. I might try to do something. I've been talking about maybe even doing my own sketch show after like having so much fun with the sketch show. So I'm really on like the cusp right now with that of I would like to do another high concept thing. I would like to just bring back Truth or Dare, bring back Heart to Heart, and just like have more sense to like have more collaborators. So it's not just all me, and like having like a legit producer help me. But I think I like I've been so fortunate to get really great opportunities like very early in my career. But at this point, I feel like I need to really force myself to like go back to basics and just like focus on going to mics and like just writing more and like fleshing out concepts that I've abandoned. And yeah, I think I just need to like take a few steps back.
Yeah. That'll help you with that credit card debt too.
Yeah,
if you
true.
do the mics. All right. Well, you know the time was coming. Did you prepare for it?
Yes.
Okay. One word to describe your future.
Fulfilling.
Oh, there he is. There's
Hello.
Kitty. Sunning outside.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that is a wrap on Comedy Wham presents Holly Hart. Tell us where we can find you on social media and promote whatever you want to promote.
You can find me on all of them at Holly Hart ATX.
Very good. And that's A-R-T. Mm-hmm. H with art.
Yes.
Oh. Brand. When you do merch, you could do H with art.
That's another next step, some merch.
Yeah, there you go. Well, we hope you've enjoyed learning about how Holly got to be the comedic genius that you heard today just as much as I have. This has been Comedy Wham presents Holly Hart. I'm Valerie, and that's been funny. Thank you, Holly.
Thank you.
And congratulations on your first podcast.
Thanks so much.